Hello and welcome. I'm your host, William Liu. This is the Raptors Reaction Podcast presented by Betway. For all your sports betting activities, hit the QR code that you see here on the screen or follow the link that you see in the description of this episode. Raptors lose tonight 123 to 114 against the Detroit Pistons. Sorry once again that was not able to go live after the game. It was a Saturday night in Toronto, and I definitely did have a couple of nice plans with some friends, but I was able to sort of catch the game, and even though we're not going live right now, still wanted to share with you some thoughts on the latest Raptors loss. I think basically the big storyline coming out of a game like this is just it doesn't really feel like Barnes, Barrett, and Quickley, the BBQ combo that we've been sort of waiting on for the whole season. It doesn't look ready. I'm not going to say right now that it's not going to work long term. I think that we still do need some time, and we are a little bit starved for patience this year, and quite frankly, all we do have is time and patience, because this year kind of is a trial, and I think in particular it's a trial for these three guys to be able to show some sort of chemistry. These are the three guys who are obviously your team leaders, objectively the three most productive players on the team. If you like defense, you could put Jakob in there, but realistically, these are the three guys who are supposed to lead you. And these are the three guys that we haven't seen play together for the most part. I mean, over the, since they got traded here with, the OG Anunoby trade to New York, bringing back RJ and IQ. Yes, they have played some time together, but there has just been so many different iterations of the team. At first, Pascal was playing with them. Obviously, that's a big factor. Then they had a lot of injuries. Then sort of one guy was in, one guy was out. Scottie broke his hand. It just, there was a lot going on. At the start of the season, we thought maybe we'll finally get to see these three guys play together, see what the Raptors have invested in. Of course, the Raptors obviously have given Scottie a maximum contract that kicks in next year. Well-deserved as a guy who certainly is the course, centerpiece of your team. But of course, you trade for RJ, a guy who actually still has 2 more years on his deal at pretty significant money. And then, of course, you've re-signed IQ now moving forward for the next 5 years. And this is year 1 of that deal. You've clearly committed something to this group. Now you need to see those three guys play well together. Of course, we haven't seen that of the first half of the season because IQ was injured for the most part. RJ was, actually RJ's been pretty available, and then Scottie's sort of been in and out. But even then, now we're finally getting to see this team healthy. And at least right now, it doesn't seem particularly effective. Of course, once again, I want to reiterate that we are not making long-term proclamations over a game that they lose to Detroit. But also at the same time, when you look at this game, it wasn't the bench that lost in the game. It was the starters who lost in the game. The starters who came out with a really, really poor effort, I thought, did not set the tone at all, did not set their intentions for the night. When their first possession is a turnover and the Pistons go the other way and they score. The first place, Scottie tries to post up Tobias Harris, doesn't really get anywhere, tries to force feed Jakob. That's a turnover. And then going the other way, Tim Hardaway Jr. is stopped on the break. He picked up his dribble. For some reason, Gradey still fouled him and sent him to the foul line. Like, when you start like that, when you also allow a 13-0 Pistons run shortly thereafter to get down 19-6, that's just not strong. And that's not good enough from the main guys who are available. I mean, we've heard for, the last 2 weeks, well, you got to give these guys a chance because we haven't been able to see what they're about. And we need to sort of, we need to wait until we're healthy. And then we need to sort of see what this team actually looks like. I mean, there's no other excuses. The team is pretty much healthy. The only guy who didn't play today was Ochai Agbaji, who would have normally otherwise. Obviously hurt his hip. This is the first game he missed all year. To be honest, he was missed, but he was going to be off the bench, right? The starting 5 that we talked about so much, Darko even referenced in himself. We only saw 4 minutes of, Barnes-Barrett-Quickley with Gradey Dick and Jakob Poeltl as surrounding the starting 5. We only saw 4 minutes of that last year. So finally we got that on the court. What does it look like? Now, I wasn't expecting it to look amazing immediately, but also at the same time, I think this is a very, very key evaluation period to see, is there something in this team? And as currently constructed, or they're going to be, significant moves needed to sort of move around this. Granted, I think for a lot of people, hearing me even say that, they're already rolling their eyes thinking, of course, Will, why do you think we're 8-31? We definitely need more pieces around this. And obviously nobody aside from Scottie is really nailed down with any of this group. I understand that. But at the same time, this is the group that we have right now. And at least we got to see what we have here. This reminds me almost of like after the Raptors traded Bargnani back in 2013, and then they traded Rudy Gay. They were like, okay, this is the team that we have now. We might make more moves, but this is the team that we have now. And I think maybe we're just so spoiled because back then when it was Colin DeMar and JV and Terrence Ross and, Amir Johnson, et cetera, that group didn't look that great on paper, but they started gelling, connecting, and they started getting results. And then they started, forging their own identity. They turned the franchise around, not only in the sense that the franchise wasn't going to rebuild, but instead they're going to build around those guys. I think this team right now has that chance, if they play well enough, to at least influence that, hey, we are going to be the core group here, and we are going to then build from here rather than sort of keep tearing down and keep replacing and keep trying new pieces like they obviously have brought in with IQ and RJ. And tonight, this was just a very jumbled mess. I feel like, obviously Scottie's the most important part of this whole thing, but also at the same time, I feel like he's also making a lot of concessions. This reminded me of previous seasons of what it looked like to watch Scottie operate with some of his teammates. He had to do the hard job. He had to do the hard things tonight. That was guarding Cade Cunningham, who is going to be an all-star this year. Obviously, the number one pick from the 2021 draft, the one with Scottie in it, has been obviously on some wayward Detroit Pistons teams. I mean, the Pistons lost 28 games last year. Snap, obviously, by the Raptors, of course. But still, Cade he's tough as hell. And I thought Scottie did a really good job guarding Cade in the matchups that he had him. But let me tell you, Cade Cunningham still had he had 22 points, 10 rebounds, 17 assists. I wanted to get that right. 8 of 17 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, including some big shots in the fourth quarter to create that separation as the Raptors were in a close game. And then he took over and made a couple of really big plays for the team. 22, 17 assists, and 10 rebounds. And I'm saying this while I'm also complimenting Scottie's defense, because I thought Scottie really put in a lot of effort on that front. So I felt like he's already conceding in the sense that, he's already doing the hardest job defensively. Now, what does he have left over on offense? Well, it depends, because it's sometimes we've seen Scottie be the main man on defense and also the main man on offense. Of course, that maybe in the long run will burn you out. But again, sometimes great players have that capacity to do both. Tonight, it felt like Scottie was feeding off the scraps, especially in the fourth quarter when the Raptors were in the game. Like it was a 1 or 2 possession game for the majority of the fourth quarter until the Pistons sort of extended themselves in the last 2 minutes. It felt like Scottie was just waiting in the corner, waiting for a pass. Meanwhile, it was, IQ running the show, or it was, RJ missing shots here or there. It didn't even feel like the play was going through Scottie. It felt like the play was going through Cade, when the Pistons were running. And of course, the Pistons also did a good job of running off-ball actions. A lot of guys got open for 3. Malik Beasley certainly had a nice game here, and he was important here for what the Pistons were doing. But on the other end, it didn't feel like the play ran through Scottie. It felt like more so it ran through IQ. Now, granted, last time the Raptors won, which was, a week ago now, when they played the Brooklyn Nets, that game, the fourth quarter, ran through IQ a lot, right? You remember that game. Remember IQ was hitting the pull-up 3, and then he was hitting like the runners, and he was skipping up and down, and then he was feeding Jakob, he was feeding Scottie, and Scottie was also doing a great job stealing the ball going out in transition. So Scottie was involved in the fourth, but it ran through a lot with IQ. But of course, that game, IQ was cooking and felt right. This game, IQ had it going to some degree. He did have 25 points that did lead all scores for the Raptors, but it never really felt like he was going to get you a good shot time and time down. Of course, he did go for 25 points, but he went 7 of 20 from the field for those points. The efficiency came up from the fact that he made 4 of 9 from 3, although he missed a pretty open 3 in the fourth. You can't make them all, I guess, but still 7 of 7 from the foul line, which is nice. Of course, there was a couple plays there, but only 2 assists. And when the Raptors, when you look at it, this is a ball movement team that certainly needs to be able to share the ball, and we didn't see a lot of that tonight, and especially with the starting lineup, who are really, really poor in how they played tonight. When you look at -8 for Scottie, -10 for Jakob, -17 for RJ, -24 for IQ, -9 for Gradey, and their assists 3, 3, 3, 2, 2. That's way too low for all those guys. And it feels like, they just didn't really have that cohesion tonight. RJ never had it going at any point in this game. And he is certainly the player who performed the worst for the Raptors in the fourth quarter tonight. He was 4 of 16 from the field, including 0 of 8 from 3. Now, a lot of those were wide open and good shots that he needs to take. And he has been better at catch-and-shoot threes since coming to Toronto from New York. But tonight, 0 of 8 from 3. I mean, that almost single-handedly sunk their chances of coming back in a game like this, or maybe even potentially winning a game like this, let alone the fact that he went 2 of 6 from the foul line, including back-to-back missed free throws at a particularly deflating moment in the fourth quarter when the Raptors, again, were in the game. They were in the game 1 or 2 possessions. And that's where this team, they have that chance to say, you know what, we're going to rebuild. We're going to add some talented players to the lottery this year. And clearly that's certainly the main thing that everyone's looking forward to. We understand that. But also we are going to establish that us 3 together are going to look really good. We're going to sort of make the role players around us look great. And we're going to start establishing something. I didn't see that tonight because it looked confusing. It looked, it looked muddled. And the Raptors, quite frankly, looked confused. I think not only on the offensive end, where the Raptors, were not able to execute all that well. And quite frankly, it didn't have a really good hierarchy, as I mentioned. Is it IQ's team? Is it Scottie's team? Is it RJ's team? Like tonight, it felt like, Scottie was lucky to get a turn here or there. Not to say Scottie was dominating with all the scoring. I mean, he was only 5 of 14 from the field for 16 points. But also at the same time, like, why is he third in the team in shot attempts again? And why was he waiting in the corner, waiting for kick-out passes that never came in the fourth quarter again? This is, if we wanted to see this, we could have just stuck with Fred and Pascal and OG with that core. This doesn't make sense in terms of what they played like tonight. What was more concerning, and probably what is more concerning overall, is long-term, defensively. Does this core actually make sense together? Especially this starting 5. This 5 that, Darko's reference, we really want to get to this. We only played 4 minutes of this all of last year. We really want to see what it looks like together. We're getting a chance to see what they look like together. The core, the 5 that you have on the floor when they're healthy, these are the guys who are going to start. IQ at point, Gradey Dick at 2, RJ as the 3, Scottie as the 4, and Jakob as the 5. We have been waiting for this because we have seen lots of moments over the course of the season where RJ has really took over and he's played really well. And we've seen Jakob at the start of the season really, really play well. A lot of that coincided with RJ playing well. The two of them had a really good pick and roll game going. Then we've seen Gradey Dick. Obviously, at the start of the season, he was explosive. Like, he was going all over the place. And tonight, he was actually okay. He just defensively was very lost. But we'll put that to the side for a second. And then, of course, Scottie is Scottie. Like, he's your franchise guy, and IQ is your long-term point guard moving forward. The question is, who is your defender in this group? And how, in particular, are you going to manage your matchups, and how are you going to play team defense around this? The Pistons are not that good of an offensive team. I mean, the Pistons this year are really turning around. They're one of the best stories in the league in terms of they went from a team that last year went on a 28-game losing streak. Once again, snapped by the Toronto Raptors, but a 20-game losing streak. They've been in the lottery forever. This year, they're 20-19. And nobody is saying, well, they're mediocre, their ceiling's limited. They're saying how refreshing it is that we've taken so many young players. We've gotten a new coach in here. We've gotten a number 1 player, overall player in Cade Cunningham, who is, stepping up, improving, showing you the efficiency, but also showing the aptitude to lead alongside of a couple of new veterans. Like, they're not like groundbreaking veterans. We're talking about Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, this is, like, it's not exactly like they gave them the Heatles to cook with. They're saying, here's some competent veterans. Here's a head coach who has won in this league. And here's a number 1 player, and let's see what you can run with. And they're running with it. No one would have been surprised if the Pistons were, in the lottery again. They're not going to be in the lottery right now. They're 20-19. That's a really, really good record for sort of the progress that they made. But they're not that good of a offensive team. If anything, they grind it out defensively. They play a lot of close games, and then they sort of they show a lot of toughness in these close games. Sometimes they don't win them all. Of course, that's the nature of being in close games. But they're enough close games that they're now above 500. Credit to them. I actually have a lot of respect for what the Pistons are doing. I think for the Raptors side, defensively, we made them look really good. And of course, a lot of that is the Pistons shooting well from 3. They shot 19 of 33 from 3, which is 57%. You're probably going to lose a lot of games that you do that. However, the Raptors also shot 16 of 38. So we're not even losing the 3-point battle all that much. For me, the issues on defense came up over and over and over again because I feel like for the starting 5 of the Raptors, they don't have their roles and they don't even have the buy-in, I feel like, defensively. And here's what I mean by that. Scottie obviously is taking the hardest job. He's guarding Cade Cunningham. He's doing his very best to shut him down. That's the toughest job. Those two guys obviously go back to their days playing together in Montverde. They're familiar with each other. They're in the same draft class. They kind of know each other's games well. And I think I know Cade had a great stat line. The 22-17 assists is amazing. It's a lot of offense. But also, I think in the moments when Scottie was able to lock in on him more one-on-one, or even in those situations where it was close to one-on-one, maybe 2-on-2 in a pick and roll setting, he did a really good job. And you have to watch the game to see that and not see the box score. However, whenever Cade got off of Scottie, or Scottie come off the bench, or Scottie go for a rest or something like that, it felt like he was going. It felt like the entire offense was sort of picked apart. And I think, especially in a game like this, you really notice a couple of things. RJ Barrett's defense in this one was just simply not good enough. And they've talked so much this season about, RJ's talked about, well, my role gets affected. I change, and sometimes I'm the featured guy now that I'm like the third guy. You know what I mean? Like it's changed around a little bit. And I think you've seen IQ talked about it. You've seen Darko talk about it. They want to get more out of RJ defensively. Well, tonight, they didn't get more out of RJ defensively. There was a play in the fourth quarter when the Raptors' second unit, which actually played quite well tonight, and they should be getting the headlines here, but they're not because of the fact that the starting lineup showed you so many issues. When the second unit was in, they were actually playing some good offense. They were actually hitting some threes. Jamal Shead had a nice little moment there. Chris Boucher had an incredible moment in the first half where he had 14 points in the first quarter. That single-handedly bailed the Raptors out of that early hole that they were in because he had 14 points in the first quarter. Congrats to Chris. He continues to be on an absolute heater. But the bench was actually playing decently. And then Scottie, who was playing with that second unit, had to come out early in the fourth quarter just for a quick breather. Because, of course, you're not going to play him the entire second half. You need to get him a quick breather and then bring him back in, maybe 6 minutes left, and it's winning time and you go, right? First play, when Scottie goes to the bench, Cade Cunningham gets the ball. RJ's now on Cade, which is they're like-sized. It makes sense. He should be guarding him. This is also RJ's sixth season in the league. You know what I mean? You should be able to sort of hold your own at least for a couple of minutes while Scottie is sort of going to the bench and getting a breather. First play, he's on Cade. He goes under the screen and Cade just pulls up from three. How are you going under the screen against Cade? Either that's not knowing the scouting report, which I really refuse to believe that because Cade's also been in the league many years and you know that that's the main assignment. That's probably the only assignment really with the Pistons. Number two, you just shouldn't be going under, right? That's, you either don't know the scouting report or you're a little bit lazy or unfocused in that moment. That's unacceptable. And Darko called timeout right after that. And you could tell that it was unacceptable because the Raptors actually had a difficult time wrestling control of the game, but they actually had a little bit of momentum at the start of the fourth quarter. And a lot of that got zapped right away with a mistake like that. And then you saw, okay, well, eventually when Scottie came back in, it's fine, we could hide RJ elsewhere. And, let's put him on Tobias Harris. Let's put him on Malik Beasley. Tobias Harris, late in the game, one-on-one against RJ Barrett. Up fake, got RJ through the air, and then did a step through and went in for a layup. I mean, come on. That's Tobias Harris, right? At this point, I'm not saying Tobias Harris is not a good player. Tobias Harris he's certainly earned a lot of money in this league for a guy who isn't rated all that highly. He can score, I get it. But to be completely bamboozled with an up fake step through when he's already picked up his dribble, going for a layup, you're not going to block a shot in that situation. How about just thinking in front and sort of contesting and make him sort of shoot over a contest? That's just not disciplined defense in a moment like that. In the fourth quarter, when, again, the Raptors were close. Or how about Malik Beasley coming over on a screen, a dribble handoff, and RJ gets caught up on that screen, still tries to give a good effort contest from behind. But, at this point, you're already a little late. And guess what? Tobias Harris, or at this point, Malik Beasley's already hit, 6 of 10 from the field, including 4 or 5 from 3. You got to contest better than that. You got to deny him, send him down. You can't let him even receive the ball at the top like that. It's simple plays like that. It just feels again, when you have 3 big defensive breakdowns with one guy down the stretch like that, that really hurts. And of course, RJ typically, on a typical game, he gives a great effort on offense. He's usually a lot better than this offensively. Clearly, I'm not trying to pick on him for having a down night. I actually don't really take that much exception to the shots that he missed tonight. Those are shots that he should take. I'm comfortable with him taking 16 shots. Usually, you give RJ 16 shots, he probably gives you 20 points, and they're efficient, and he knocks down probably 3 of 8 from 3 rather than 0 of 8 from 3, and the game changes entirely in terms of what his overall game looked like. But I think what's within his control is the defensive part. Because look, Scottie's already conceding. The best player for you offensively shouldn't also be the best player for you defensively. You're asking one man to do too much work. But you know what? He's willing to do that for the team and take on a guy like Cade. But that being said, someone else has to take on that responsibility defensively. And what you see against, the Knicks game was kind of a wash, whatever. But the Cavs game, for example, Yeah, the Raptors play the Cavs really close. And yeah, me and Stamps were on here yapping about, oh, yeah, this is great. You know what I mean? Like, it was another ethical loss, blah, blah, blah. Here's some good things that happened. That's cool. You know what was the bad thing that happened? Not a single person could guard Darius Garland. And Darius Garland is a very, very good player. But when you put together the top 10 point guards in the league, does Darius Garland even get into that top 5? Right? So who in that starting 5 is going to step to that challenge? Is it going to be IQ? Is it going to be Gradey? Is it going to be RJ? Those 3 guys are not as important offensively as they would otherwise be when the Raptors are super injured. Like when the Raptors are banged up at the start of the season, no IQ, no Scottie, fine. I could live with RJ not playing that much, defense. I could live with Gradey not playing that much defense. You have other guys to balance that out. Davion Mitchell was starting in that time. Ochai Agbaji was starting in that time. They were doing a lot of work guarding while the other guys were scoring. And that kind of worked. Ish. The Raptors actually got a lot of wins in that stretch. But ish. You know what I mean? It worked ish. Now, all those guys are looking out there, and I feel like their focus is scoring. I feel like RJ's focus is scoring. I feel like IQ's focus is scoring. I feel like Grady's focus is scoring. I feel like that balance needs to be struck with those 3 guys. And I know a lot of defensive talent is not necessarily in their favor. I get it. Like that, I'm not expecting them to be, the 2019 Raptors where like IQ's going to play like, Kyle on the defensive end, and RJ's going to play like Kawhi on the defensive end, and Grady's going to play like Danny Green on the defensive end. That's not going to happen. I know that. But also at the same time, the breakdowns that RJ was giving up, the breakdown that Gradey was giving up, there was a pick and roll between Cade and Jalen Duren, and the Raptors blitzed it. They sent 2 to the ball, and Gradey just completely gets lost, somehow runs straight to the corner for some reason to somebody who was already being covered by Bruce Brown. That left Jakob having to play 1-on-2 against Tobias Harris, who's already a mismatch, but also having to guard the rim with Jalen Duren. And Jalen Duren, the biggest guy in the rim, in the whole gym, runs free to the basket. Nobody's covering him. Tobias Harris doesn't even make a quick pass. He just realizes, oh, the biggest man in the building is wide open under the rim for a dunk. Here's a pass. Here's a dunk. Here's just more confusion from the Raptors. And this is the thing. They got to stamp this out. Again, like, nobody's making long-term proclamations on what BBQ is about and what they can do in this league right now, right? It would be too premature because even for me, they have not played enough games together. But again, on paper, there are clearly some issues. Clearly on paper, defensively, this team is not really suited to sort of playing any sort of high-level defense. However, they still have this chance here. And from now until the end of the season, because it's not like you're going to see RJ or IQ getting moved right now. From now until the end of the season, it's on them to sort of showcase that they are actually a competitive group. They're willing to play together. They're willing to find a structure. They're willing to find a hierarchy. They're willing to sort of, show a togetherness on defense, a toughness that, quite frankly, that they selectively show. And quite frankly, most times they select not to show. This is their chance from now to the end of the season. They got to show that. And if they don't show that, well, guess what? The rebuild goes longer than expected. More players get picked. Guess what? That number one, that first round pick that the Raptors are putting all their eggs into this year, right? Who's that going to be at the top of the draft? Is that going to be a Cooper Flagg? Is that going to be a Dylan Harper? Is that going to be an Ace Bailey? Is that going to be Kasparis? Guess what? Most of the picks at the top are guards and wings. Guards and wings. And BBQ is a guard, another guard, and a wing. And obviously we know Scottie's not getting moved anywhere. So if this core doesn't work together, that chance is going to slip by. And that's why, even though these games are tough to watch from a fan's perspective, and quite frankly, not particularly fun to watch, even in the games where they're competitive, in a game like this is not a fun watch, quite frankly. There is still something on the line. This group right now has that chance to sort of take it or run with it, and they're not doing that right now. And of course, you might need more time. You might need more practice. Raptors did cancel their practice on Sunday, which, okay, still, whatever. But, you have a little bit of a runway here. And I know that nobody really wants to see them, take off and get a bunch of wins. But for the players, you shouldn't be worried about the tank. You should only be worried about how you guys can turn whatever this is right now, because there's no more excuses. There's no more injuries or anything like that. There's no more excuses. This team needs to go right now, and if they don't, they just get swapped out, and that's how rebuilds go. You just keep swapping and swapping and swapping and swapping and drafting and drafting and drafting and drafting and hoping and hoping and hoping, And yeah, until the players on the roster actually start showing you something. You ask the Pistons. They've been swapping a long time. And I'm still not sure that they have like a great build in place, but they got something now. And they're still building on a foundation, and now they're going to add more pieces to it. So congrats to the Pistons. As for the Raptors, second unit actually played quite well. I was happy to see, Chris Boucher continue to have his just electric play of late. Bruce Brown actually had a nice game off the bench, 14 points in 20 minutes. He actually got to play some closing minutes. He deserved to because, again, the starting lineup was not performing well. Jamal Shead continues to sort of give you an efficient outing. Tonight he had 10 points, 3-of-3 shooting, including a 3. Most of that came in the third quarter when the Raptors, again, second unit was really in the ones there pulling them out of these gutters, because the starting lineup, every time they're on the court, both to start the game and end the game, to start the third quarter, just did not look good. But you got that kind of energy and that spark. So really all credit to the bench tonight. They played well. The Pistons bench also played quite well. Again, Malik Beasley really came off the bench and knocked down a bunch of shots. Simone Fontecchio also, was able to knock down a bunch of, just drives and mid-range shots and stuff like that. But, still, I thought, the Raptors bench is usually pretty maligned. They actually showed more togetherness tonight than the Raptors started it. And quite frankly, a lot of that is just ball movement. Your leading assist guys are Kelly with 5 and, Jamal with 5 off the bench. And those two guys, Kelly played 14 minutes, Jamal played 17. No excuses for the starting lineup. They have to find an identity. Otherwise, this thing is going to get quite frustrating. So we're going to take a quick break. We are actually going to hear from our sponsor. And of course, when we come back, I want to take one of your questions that I saw on Twitter in the Tangerine Fan Inbox, and then we'll wrap up with the 3 stars and look ahead to the games next week.
Hey, man.
Hey, buddy.
Just recently hit the big 4-0. What about you, bro?
A little more recently 4-0, but we are both in the 40 club.
Let me tell you, man, being an adult really comes with its share of challenges.
Definitely. I think both you and I are homeowners, and I think we're both also dealing with mortgages in life.
Yeah, man. Mortgage rates, choosing the right terms, dealing with paperwork. It can be really overwhelming,
I still don't know how that works.
Well, listen, that's where our friends at Dominion Lending Centers come in, man. They make the whole process simple and stress-free. Whether you're renewing your mortgage, hunting for the best rates, or if you just need advice, they're here to help, bro.
You know what? I am looking for that advice, and I think that's why I'm going to visit www.dominionlending.ca.
Yeah, man. www.dominionlending.ca. Take the guesswork out of your mortgage and step into financial confidence with our friends at Dominion Lending by our side.
All right, it is time now for the Tangerine Fan Inbox, and I'll let you know that Tangerine is the official bank of the Toronto Raptors, a foundational partner of WNBA Canada and NBA Canada, and of course, not just fans of basketball, they're fans of basketball. They're fans of fans who have their own nickname for each guy in the starting 5, or fans of fans who spent Saturday night taking a bus down to Detroit by the busload to watch the Raptors take on the Pistons. Yes, it's another L in Detroit. However, you can never question the loyalty of those fans who take the bus ride down to Detroit and go to Little Caesars. Honestly, you get some great tickets. It's cheaper, way cheaper than it is to go at Scotiabank Arena, despite the fact that Detroit actually has a way more winning product now. And you got to salute them. And it's always great to see that sort of presence, hear their presence too on the broadcast, because we actually hear you loud and clear on our televisions. If you're hearing this, there's no doubt in your commitment. Fans like you are at the heart of what makes this game great. So for this year, Raptors' 30th anniversary, Tangerine is turning the spotlight from the court to the stands, celebrating the way Raptor fans support their team, because this is how we fan. To learn more, visit tangerine.ca/basketball. Okay, short one here, but I did get a question in from Tanner. Tanner did ask a question here, and he said, I don't want to trade Boucher, but if he keeps playing like this, he might actually get a protected first. And you know what? I appreciate Tanner's enthusiasm. I think the Boucher that we've seen this week certainly is a player that would get you a lot in return if he played like this week over the course of his whole career. We obviously know that he's on a hot stretch right now. And we also know that Chris Boucher is a player who is absolutely capable of giving you a hot stretch. This is why I actually do think that he is a player, which you've already heard some of the reports. I think Ian Begley reported that, the Nuggets, for example, are a team that's monitoring Chris Boucher, and there's other teams out there that are sort of looking at him. I'm happy that's the case because, quite frankly, Chris has played well enough this season and over the course of his career to have teams be interested, and sort of, especially, with his ability to change games. His energy, his hustle, his ability to knock down the three, which this week has been deadly. I mean, tonight Chris goes 4-5 from three, 5-6 from the field overall. He's got the length and the activities to sort of like slot in as a help defender, be disruptive here or there. You know, we know what Chris can do. And even though Chris just turned 32, happy birthday to Chris Boucher, by the way. Even though he just turned 32, he plays like a 23-year-old. Like, he's very lively. He's cheery. He runs around. He's never tired, really, except for that gif of him going to the bench. I just have a lot of respect for Chris. And if this is the last season for Chris, and this is obviously the last year of his contract here with the Raptors, he's played his whole career here outside of a short stint with Golden State to start. But quite frankly, he's played his whole career as a Raptor. I see him as a lifelong Raptor. He's played well enough this last week to showcase who he is. And don't forget, at the start of this week, he wasn't even in the rotation, right? He wasn't in the rotation. This week started with him getting a 2-minute cameo at the end of the game when it was third stringers versus third stringers. And he came on and he showcased what he does best. Play hard in every minute that he has. 2 minutes gives you 10 points. Next game, he gives you a great effort against the Cavs. And this game, honestly, this game was starting to look like a really bad one again. A lot of bad vibes all around. And if it wasn't for Chris Boucher coming in, knocking down threes, and being jubilant too, knocking down threes and being so happy and bringing the energy to the team, right? The Raptors were down 7-8 points when he was hitting some of those threes, but he was jogging back to the bench and he was bringing energy for that group. Chris single-handedly made it a game for the Raps. And of course, the Raps weren't able to sort of capitalize on that, but it went from being a blowout in the first quarter to Chris Boucher correcting that and giving them a chance, and it was tied 32-32. And the Raptors played a close game from there. But still, salute to Chris. He is somebody who has earned all our respects as a Raptor fan. And whether he gets minutes or not, whether he's here or not, we are always going to be supporting of Chris. So that's it for the Tangerine Fan Inbox. Obviously, we're not going live, so we're not getting more of your questions. But of course, if our usual streams, when we're going live, you can certainly participate in the stream and leave your questions. And it's always great to chat with all of you. I wanted to just to wrap up here and hand out the 3 stars from tonight's game. The first star for me, I think I'm going to get the first star to Chris. Actually, yeah, I'm going to get Chris the first star. 14 points. Again, it's really just about the fact that he turned the game around. If the Raptors really just were to go into Detroit and go down 19-6 and just show and be lifeless, I don't even feel like that would have been fair to anybody involved. Whether that's the fans who bust down there, whether that's the fans who tune in on television, whether that's even just the broadcast crew. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to fly Jack in to Detroit on a Saturday when it's snowy outside in the dead of winter. We're making Jack go to January, go to Detroit. So the Raptors can be down 19-6 and just be completely out of it, lifeless. Come on, man. So shouts to Chris for making it worth everyone's time, getting everyone back into place, and at least us seeing a competitive game. Honestly, that's how low the bar has gotten now. It's not even just about winning, not just about showing you something. It's just about being in a competitive game. And at least Chris gave us that. So he's going to get the first star for that. Your second star, I would give that to Scottie. I think Scottie, obviously, offensively, probably would have wanted to see just a little bit more than 16 points. But again, he had to do the majority of the job defensively. I liked how aggressive he was on the offensive end when he got the chances to play in that mid-range, that sort of short, half turn over the shoulder, fake one way, turn the other way for the short turnaround jumper. He continues to show good touch on that. 12 rebounds as well, including 3 offensive, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Did a lot for you defensively. Had to do the hardest job. Played 38 minutes. I never really thought that his motor came down in a game like this. And yeah, I mean, obviously we needed, if he's going to hold it down defensively, that means RJ and IQ have to hold it down offensively, and that didn't really happen. But yeah, Scottie played a good game. And then your third star, I'll give it to Bruce. Bruce actually had a good game playing against his former team. 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 6-9 shooting, 2 of 2 from 3. Played a really good game in general. Defensively, he was solid. Offensively, he gives you something that, he moves the ball, kind of is a secondary playmaker for you, second unit mostly, obviously. But yeah, I mean, again, like a lot of these guys, we probably won't see them in a month when the trade deadline comes around. And it's a good chance Chris is gone. It's a good chance Bruce is gone. But tonight they both played really well off the bench for Toronto, and quite frankly, better than a lot of the Raptors starters. Your Gerald Henderson Award winner for who killed the Raps, I want to give that to Malik Beasley, 18 points off the bench. He killed the Raps in the first game as well. The Raptors played Detroit. He really has been able to knock down threes. He's been a really efficient three-point shooter. I mean, the Pistons only got him for $6 million, so like, you know, it's a pretty good deal for them. And yeah, I know defensively it doesn't give you all that much, but offensively, 18 points off the second unit, that's quite good. And finally, I wanted to give you the most important guy, and I want to remind you that the most important guy award is presented by Greta. Greta Bar YYZ is located at 590 King Street West, right in the heart of the city. It's the place to go for pregame, postgame, during the game as well, to catch all your favorite live sporting events. And of course, it's the number one barcade in the city as well. You can certainly, kick back with a couple of friends, just enjoy a night out, have some cold drinks, some nice food. And of course, when you get tired of all the sports, you can start making your way over to the games as well. They got a really, really great selection of arcade games and all your favorite classics over at Greta Bar YYZ. You know what? The most important guy after a game like this, it's actually my friends Oren Weisfeld and Libaan Osman. We actually got the invite from those two. They said that they were going to go watch TMU play basketball. TMU versus Carleton, which for anybody who's seen some sports in Ontario at the collegiate level, they know how big of a basketball game that is. Now, of course, it doesn't have necessarily the same, like as 10 years ago, as Libaan told me, like 10 years ago, you wouldn't be able to get a seat. That's how sort of lit that game kind of was. Still a really good atmosphere down there at Mattamy Athletic Center tonight. But yeah, me and Jerome were able to make our way over to watch the game. We actually had the Pistons going, Raptors Pistons on the phone, and then we actually were watching it in the arena as well. Really great atmosphere. Really, really, just inspiring. Maybe even to see the level of hoops that played at that sort of range. Of course, like a lot of these players probably won't be going pro or whatever. They were just kind of out there for the love of the game. And the love of athletics and whatever, but it was actually a really, really competitive game. And honestly, like we've gotten the chance here. We've been invited out to watch some games at TMU. We've been invited to watch some games at U of T in particular as well. And I'm not picking a side on that one because I'm not going to get in the middle of that rivalry, but it is always really great when you ever get the chance to sort of see some of your local basketball as well. I know that there's such a big focus, obviously, in the States with NCAA basketball, but there's some really, really good programs here in Canada as well, and I think they also deserve your support. So most important guy is Oren Weisfeld and Libaan Osman, who are always two huge supporters of Canadian basketball at all routes and all levels, for reminding us that there's good hoops outside of the Raptors. And quite frankly, there's not a lot of good hoops within the Raptors these days. So it was a great chance to go down there and check out TMU. TMU did get the win, by the way, over Carleton, although I was told that some of their best players were unavailable tonight. But still, it didn't feel like it. It felt like a very competitive game. So that's it. Thanks everyone for listening. Again, apologies that we did not go live. We're obviously going to try to go live as much as possible. But sometimes when it's Raps Pistons on a Sunday night or a Saturday night and you got a great chance to go see some friends, go see some great basketball, we're just going to sort of pivot. And hopefully we're able to catch this on the YouTube after the fact when we upload it, or through Spotify and Apple where you listen to your podcast. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back later on this week. Me and Alex are recording another episode that's dropping on Monday. We're going to answer your questions in a Twitter mailbag, so look out for that coming out on Monday. And of course, Raptors play once again next week. They return home to Scotiabank Arena, take on the Golden State Warriors next on Monday. So let's see Steph Curry and of course old friend of the program Dennis Schroeder come to Toronto and see maybe, I don't know what we're expecting to see actually, but maybe we see something, and hopefully for their sake see something much, much better from BBQ than what they showed tonight. So thanks everyone for listening. This has been the Hello and Welcome podcast presented by Betway, and we're out.